Well, how's it going, everybody? I am attorney Michael Eline. As you guys know, I am an attorney licensed in California and Texas. I am presently preparing for the Nevada bar exam. I just had a little bit of a holdup with somebody that I'm going to have to sue, so I had to take some time off to do that. But I have a really good show for you guys tonight, and it's going to be based on a couple of different things. I did some traveling this weekend, and I said, you know what, man, I am going to do a show on this because this is driving me bonkers. Every time you go through the airport and you want to do a pat down search, instead of going through their millimeter wave scan machines, the TSA agents try to tell you that it's perfectly safe and there's nothing to worry about. So that's one thing we're going to talk about how is it that a TSA agent who barely made it out of high school has the right to practice medicine without a license and give you medical advice that it's perfectly safe, number one. And then the first issue we're going to actually discuss tonight is the civil asset forfeiture stuff. Remember OCTAF? Give me a bunch of OCTAFs in the sidebar, guys. Hey, Let's OTVO. Let me say hi to my audience, everybody. A lot of you people that come onto my show probably are trying to figure out, who's this guy talking to, right? Well, I'm talking to the people in my sidebar. This is my audience. These are my friends, and they're part of Team MPE. So that's Team Michael Paul Eline, and they're mostly my moderators. They keep all of the status, the deep staters, the commies off my channel, and so we can have a relevant discussion. So if you're somebody who thinks that everything the government says is true, you're probably not somebody who should be on this channel. My channel is designed to question authority and speak truth to power, just like Martin Luther King Jr. did. So I'm the white version of Martin Luther King Jr. with a law degree and a law license in several different states. So, hey, Just Willie, good seeing you. Kurt Bronson, right on. Really happy to have you here. And again, anybody who throws me a super chat or buys me a coffee or memberships, I'll always make sure that to address your comments and put you to the front of the line, because I appreciate you guys supporting my channel. I've had a very, very rough day today. Again, I've been up since about 03:30 this time, working my butt off, getting a landlord-tenant lawsuit ready to go against somebody who I'm going to have to go after because they're refusing to negotiate with me and ignoring me, and instead hiring a total scumbag property manager who would rather try and play hardball with me than do the right thing. So very, very tired trying to run a law practice and then handle another case on my own for my own family. But I'm here for you guys today. And what's up, Copsar 5150? And I have not seen an email from you. I did get one from Rami about you, and I did try to respond. So everybody, I'll try to answer another question really quick before the show gets going too much. But it has to do with the right of travel. So one of my members of Team MPE, by the way, congratulate all the new members who got their wrenches. I tried to make sure that Age Go and all of my long-term members of Team MPA all got wrenches, whether they're paid subscribers or not. I mean, because I know you guys, not all you guys have money. I get it. But to answer a question really quick before we start the show off, the right of travel. So some people feel, based on case law that they've researched, that they should not or don't have a requirement to have a driver's license or registration to drive on the public roads. And there is a lot of case law, and there are Supreme Court cases that do say that you have the right of travel. And that is an unalienable right based on natural law, the exact opposite of what the World Economic Forum wants for you with their 15-minute cities and basically just communism repackaged, where they get all the rights, but you don't get any. And we know that the WHO is behind most of these shenanigans, trying to take away and strip your freedoms based on science and medical and all this other nonsense. And then we find out later that things they said were safe and effective weren't. And so my job is to expose things that I think may not be safe and effective later or now. And one of the things that we're going to talk about, just really quick, I want to expose the right of travel, and then we'll get into this. So yes, you do have a right of travel, but my research indicates that if you're going to use public roads, that the government will have an easement over that road. And as such, they can force you to have a license to use that road. And so these are things that you need to be careful of, especially people who are like sovereign citizens or Moorish, whatever you want to call yourselves. Although I agree in principle, you shouldn't have to have a license to use the roads. And the original purpose of the vehicle code was to regulate commercial vehicles. And I think that plays into the concept that many people believe that our government converted us into commerce with the passage of the Jekyll Island and Federal Reserve Act and these private banks that are based in Puerto Rico that are regulating us and calling themselves federal, but there's nothing any more federal about them than the Federal Express, right? So the issue is going to be, guys, and then we'll get into my show, is yes, you do have the right of unrestricted travel, but if you're using a public road, there's likely a government easement over that road where they can charge you a fee, like a toll almost, and you have to have a license and you have to have your vehicle registered. But again, the original purpose of that vehicle code was for commercial purposes, to regulate commerce. And so when somebody gets a license or a registration, an argument could be made that they have now made themselves commerce. And people on my channel like Ralph Riley and others, I believe, do think that way. And, more power to you guys. The issue is going to be, do you really have the time and desire to fight it when you do get pulled over and arrested? Are you going to be able to do that and win when you have perhaps a leftist judge, or you have a judge that believes that the state is all powerful? And so my recommendation would be that you stay off the roads if you're going to be traveling in a motorized vehicle and use back streets and things of that nature. But we can talk about that in another episode. But today we're going to talk about TSA and civil asset forfeiture. And then we're going to get into these ionizing radiation machines as well as millimeter wave machines. And so at the outset, I just want to tell you that a lot of you guys probably remember when they came out with these ionizing radiation machines, and the government said, of course, like they always do, that they were safe and effective until they weren't, right? And just like the things that they, my mother-in-law died of thrombosis about 3 days after her second, what, and we know that a certain agency and certain companies tried to hide that data for 75 years. And those companies also donated billions of dollars to politicians in order to force that thing upon us. Many of us lost our jobs, lost our livelihoods while the government shut down the economy and forced us to take those things unless we, if we wanted to have a job or be in the military. And now we're hearing things, just devastating things like turbo, CANCER, what's, things I can't even talk about because the WHO controls the narrative. Now, just imagine if you had so much power that you could have a health organization control the narrative and ban people, shut down their businesses, and silence them if they disagreed, even scientists, which would then create a false narrative of scientific consensus like they've been doing for the last few years. Any scientists who have disagreed with it have automatically been silenced. In California, they passed a law to try to take away their medical licenses, which had to be reversed. So there are a lot of crazy things going on, which is why I'm an advocate of multiple party systems. A single party state is evil, and it will ultimately end up like communist China. And communist China, I believe, is the most evil country on the planet. And I believe California politicians and Canadian politicians are trying to emulate them. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to get into civil asset forfeiture at airports. We're going to talk a little bit about the negative ions, and we're going to talk about the non-negative ions, and we're going to go into some videos, and we're just going to talk about airport stuff today. And we're going to talk about the money trail and the people who donate money to the politicians to force these technologies on us, which I believe are unsafe, or at the very least not tested enough for safety in an effort to make profit, to put profits over people. And I think a lot of you guys on my channel will probably agree with that. Now, right. And what's the matter you? You're right. It's righty judges too, but it's the leftists in California that undermine our rights because there are really no righty judges in California. So I guess you would have to say in my opinion, it's a uniparty system where there is controlled opposition in the appearance of opposition. For example, Mike Johnson, there was the SAFE Act, which was a bill that would have required people to have an ID to vote, to make sure that illegal aliens can't vote. And we know that they're being registered to vote all over the country, and they're illegally voting right now in California. We've seen evidence of that. We've had admissions of that. And the state of California actually made the DMV immune from being prosecuted for helping illegal aliens register to vote. It's just unbelievable what's happening. Many figures say at least 30 million illegal aliens have come into this country. These are people that have come in for promises of free cell phones, free healthcare, and free money. We know that at least 60% of welfare recipients now, they say, are illegal aliens. I've got some statistics that I'll show you in another show, but it's unbelievable that we're having to pay for this. And I believe it's just to make sure that a certain political party holds on to political power. And it's very sad. Anyways, Mike Johnson went ahead and tabled that legislation and didn't tie it to a government shutdown. Now, the right thing to do would have been to put a spotlight on this and say, we're not going to fund the government until this other party puts it in writing that they're going to refuse to allow illegal aliens to vote in our elections. But instead, he tabled it. And so that's what happens. And so it's all traceable to political power, nonprofit organizations, and people who donate money to politicians. Ultimately, all of your rights are being affected by large corporations that donate tons of money to the representatives that you think are your representatives. But in reality, they're just representatives of large corporations. They might as well put sponsor patches all over their uniforms. So we know that they also control the administrative agencies like the CDC and the FDA, and that the heads of these agencies have revolving door employment schemes where they go back and forth to these different agencies, and they're the ones who write the laws and the policies. So we'll get into civil asset forfeiture. Hey, what's up, Rick Jonesy? Good to see you, man. And Jeff Bose, there's overwhelming evidence that illegal aliens are being registered to vote and are voting in our elections. And for you to deny that, probably, guys, you should just go ahead. Mods, just take care of this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I provided evidence multiple times. And typically these are paid agitators like Soros types that come in and just want to cause trouble. They have absolutely nothing to offer because they don't have any evidence or information. They just believe whatever the government tells them or their political party tells them because, well, Orange Man bad or something like that. So, and let me see here. So Brick Jonesy, man, I'm really happy to see you. It's been a while. I did join your channel and I'm trying to share you. So make sure to always keep me updated. Everybody make sure to like and subscribe to Brick Jonesy's channel. He's really kicking butt doing these cop watches. And as you know, I love doing cop watches too. And this is sort of my version of a cop watch, but it's government watch. Government accountability operations are what I'm all about. A lot of you guys know I do civil rights, I do personal injury and some criminal defense. And but ultimately government accountability and the First Amendment is my first love. Now, let's see here. What's the matter, you? Okay, everybody's Selwinden, thank you so much. Yeah, just like the water at CL, it's safe, right? You know, just like they've told us for years that fluoride's safe, and now we know that it can damage your what's it called? Your pineary gland. What's that gland called? That little tiny gland. It can bring the onset of dementia, and we know that countries with fluoridated water have much higher instances of dementia. Why are they putting fluoride in our water to begin with? It's unnecessary. It's a toxic chemical. Unnecessary. Just little things like that. It just doesn't make any sense. Is it called the pineary gland? You guys will know what it is. Pineal gland, I believe. And let me see here. Yeah, pineal gland. That's right. It calcifies the pineal gland. See, that's what I love about my audience is that you guys in my audience are genuinely critical thinkers, and I appreciate that. No, not pituitary, brother. Not pituitary, just Willie. Pineal gland, that's right. And the only way to, that's right. And the only way to decalcify it is nascent iodine. And so I always try to put a little bit of iodine whenever I make my protein drinks before I go to the gym. You can buy organic iodine at Whole Foods. It comes in a little dropper. So I try to do that. That's something I would recommend. And also, if you take baths and stuff like that, there are special filters you can buy that filter out the fluoride, but it absorbs through your skin. So you got to make sure you guys do that or you're in danger. And Josh, I agree. I totally agree with you that Alex Jones is right about this stuff. And what's funny is people who are accused of being conspiracy theorists, like people during the lockdowns who said this stuff is unsafe, have all been proven to be true. And it was not safe and effective. Clearly it wasn't. I mean, my grandmother, my mother-in-law died a few days after her second one of thrombosis. And I have many friends who I know who have died of all these different myocarditis and all these different things, spike proteins, heart issues. And now we're hearing stories of record levels of turbo cancer. So we have to be very careful. And unfortunately, because the World Health Organization controls Google, we can't even talk about it. We'll be accused of misinformation and we'll lose everything, right? So we have to be very careful on this channel, and we'll probably have to go right on, Brick. We'll probably have to go, through at some point Rumble or one of these other channels if we really want to talk about things that are true, because we're being silenced basically by the political industrial complex, right? So let me just go ahead and kick off my show really quick, and then we'll get into civil asset forfeiture by the TSA at airports, and then we'll get into these scanner machines, and we'll talk about the dangers to the airport personnel as well as you for long-term exposure of these machines. And we'll get into a little bit about the law when it comes to practicing medicine without a license, why I think that we should be suing the TSA for giving us medical advice that these machines are safe when they're still, sure, there's a consensus. Look, if you guys want a consensus, get rich. You can pay a scientist to say whatever you want them to, as evidenced by what happened with the NIH. So let's get into me kicking off my show so you guys can know a little bit about what I do. And then we'll get into TSA and civil asset forfeiture at airports. To another edition of Ask Michael Eline. This is where I teach people the law in an unorthodox manner by using examples that we see in the news, case law briefs, but it's all about exposing the Leviathan and its instrumentalities and taking back your rights. Know the law and mean to keep it well. Come here to learn from an expert to know your right. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. All right, guys. So again, today I'm a little more subdued than normal. Normally, you guys see me bouncing all over the place because I'm, drinking coffee, trying to stay awake. But today I'm just living off fumes. So just bear with me, but it's going to be a good show. And again, we're going to start off learning a little bit about civil asset forfeiture at airports. And I'll just get into the law really quick, and then I'll show you a slide. So first of all, let me clear the screen here. So can you sue the TSA, the Transport Safety Administration, for civil asset forfeiture? Well, maybe, but it would require several steps, and you'd have to consider the legal grounds and practical issues involved, right? And so the legal grounds for a lawsuit would be violations of constitutional rights. Civil asset forfeiture cases often hinge on Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable searches and seizures. If the TSA's actions are deemed without probable cause or based solely on suspicion without due process, you might have a strong argument. Unfortunately, though, since it's civil, this may not apply, because the civil asset forfeiture laws are passed down from Admiralty Maritime, and they've been merged into civil law. And they basically are, just to give people who don't understand how they work, they're basically something that was started, I believe Reagan really pushed these hard, but they've been in existence way before that, based on the war on drugs, right? So basically, if you were pulled over and you were a black dude and you had a nice car and you had some cash, well, that would be suspicious, right? And so law enforcement, rather than arrest you because they don't have enough evidence to arrest you, they could say, hey, let's get a drug dog and we'll sniff around. And if the cash has drugs on it, then we'll seize it, right? And of course, we know that like 90% of cash has residue of cocaine on it, right? So that's stupid, but they get away with it. And then they would use that money to help enrich the local police departments and the FBI or whatever agencies were stealing their money. And of course, these guys, that might have been all the money they ever had. And they kept it in cash because why? Because they don't trust the government, right? That's why they don't put it in banks, because they don't trust the government. And so your payment for not trusting the government is to have your cash seized. And so they would target these guys. And what's the matter, you? That would fall in line with your statement about coming from the right. Sure. I mean, that was heavy duty with the Republican war on drugs, right, guys? I mean, give me a bunch of ones if you guys remember that, if you're old enough. But yeah, civil asset forfeiture. And then we found out, of course, from a LA cop that the CIA was bringing drugs into the country and they're making money off of it. But it's you and I, we're the ones who have our cash seized, right? It's something to think about. It gives you pause for thought. But anyways, you could argue that it's an excessive fine. You could argue that it's forfeiture is grossly disproportionate to an offense, like not declaring currency. And so that's an issue at airports. I didn't have enough time to do the research on declaring currency at airports, but when I was flying regularly, it was $10,000. I think you had to declare 10,000 and up, and if you didn't, they could seize it from you. So if you were carrying large sums of cash, they could take it from you. And I think 10,000 was the minimum. It may be more now or less, who knows? And what does taping the screen twice do? I don't know, Miss Constitutional Rights. But anyways, let's get into it. So there's an actual, let me just go ahead and clear myself off of here. So the Eighth Amendment's excessive fines clause may apply. It's as hinted to by cases like State v. Bajakajian. It's a crazy Armenian kind of name, right? And then, of course, you can argue due process. If property was seized without a timely hearing or without giving the owner a chance to contest the seizure, this might violate due process. But, a lot of courts don't go along with this, man. And, of course, TSA's authority. If the TSA operates outside its jurisdiction or legal authority by seizing property not for security reasons, but for civil forfeiture like currency, this could be challenged. And, of course, we know that these agencies get part of that money back to fund them. And, so it's really nasty. These government agencies, they can steal your money. And then, of course, we know that they have unions like SEIU, and then their unions primarily, vote for Democrats. So it sort of helps Democrats stay in power, which is kind of sad, because when I was a Democrat, I was always thinking that they stood up for the little guy. But we've seen a sea change in Republicans and Democrats, with Republicans becoming the party of the working man and Democrats becoming the party of the billionaire elite, like the P. Diddy parties, the P. Diddler parties, and the Epstein Island guys, all primarily Democrats now. So it's almost like a big pendulum has swung. But there are steps that you can take. You can documentation and evidence. Gather all the evidence of the seizure, including receipts of the seized items, any explanations or reasons given by the TSA, and witness statements, if available. And then administrative remedies. This is primarily what you have to do, guys, is seek your administrative remedies. So before resorting to court, try and exhaust your administrative remedies. This might involve filing a claim with the agencies asking for the return of your property. However, administrative forfeiture might not apply directly to the TSA, but understanding this process is useful. All right. Then, of course, you want to get legal representation. Considering the complexity, you're going to want to hire an attorney specializing in probably civil rights, specifically those dealing with civil asset forfeiture. They can assess if there's been take my face down, if there's been a case under federal law, or if state laws might offer additional protection. And then, of course, you might have to file a lawsuit. If administrative remedies fail or seem futile, you can then file a lawsuit, sort of like you get your letter to sue. And this might be framed as seeking return of property, damages for unconstitutional seizure, or both. And you can ensure that the complaint details how the TSA overstepped its bounds, violated your constitutional rights, or engaged in practices beyond its legal authority. You can also think about filing a class action if your case represents broader issues with TSA's practices. So then you might consider joining or forming a class action lawsuit, which could increase visibility and potentially leverage. And then, of course, publicity. That's why you come to my channel, right, guys? We can put some publicity on it. You can publicize the case and join forces with advocacy groups like the Institute for Justice, and you can pressure agencies or influence legal proceedings due to the increased publicity. But there are practical considerations, guys, like the cost, legal battles. They can be very expensive. Understanding the cost versus potential returns or relief is crucial. And then, of course, time. These cases can be lengthy. Prepare for a process that might extend over years, right? So you're broke and you're spending years trying to get your money back. It's insane, guys. Now, there's also things like the emotional and strategic issues, preparedness, engaging in legal battles. It's very stressful and it's emotionally draining. Guys, lawyers, I think besides dentists, have the highest incidences of heart attacks. Litigators like me, trial lawyers, have very, very high incidences of heart attack. And that's why a lot of us turn to alcohol and drugs. I'm now trying to, get to the gym at least 3 days a week, go to the park in the morning, go for walks, do pull-ups on the monkey bars, whatever I have to do to keep myself squared away and stay with that Marine Corps spirit. But that's a real problem. And you're going to feel that same kind of pressure when you're litigating your own case. And then, of course, you want to stay updated on the legal landscapes, especially around civil liberties, because they change, and you want to keep abreast of new cases or laws. And then I'll get into the suing the TSA for giving medical advice, saying that radiation machines and these millimeter wavelength machines are safe, which I don't believe that they are. But first, let's get a little bit into what we came to talk about, which is TSA, civil asset forfeiture. And then when we're done, we'll talk a little bit more about the medical aspects of the airport and how many TSA employees are probably receiving higher than normal doses of radiation and millimeter wave length radiation and how that is affecting them. And so if you're a TSA person, hey, I don't hate you, but I don't like the way you treat me and my family at the airports. I think you guys are scum of the earth, the way you treat people. And if I saw you on a public street and I wasn't a lawyer, we'd definitely be having words in an alley. But beyond that, let's get into this video and we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on with civil asset forfeiture at airports.
When federal agents seize cash at airports across the country, we rarely get a look at what happens next. Sometimes that's an interrogation. Tonight, we're getting a look at one of those interrogations that happened here inside the Raleigh airport last year, where a federal agent seized $115,000 from a passenger. That interrogation quickly turned into the federal agent looking to make a deal.
I'm like, I just got robbed. I can't believe I just got robbed, like, without a gun. Like, I've been robbed before, but, like, without no gun. Like, just, it was the nicest robbery ever.
Ramon Lyons strolled through the Raleigh airport last June to hop on a flight to California. He had $115,000 in his luggage. Cash, he says, he had to purchase machines for his gaming business in Raleigh. Airport surveillance video shows the TSA screened Lyons' luggage, then grabbed his bag after an x-ray revealed cash inside. The TSA officer walked Lyons' bag to a table where a Raleigh airport officer joined in. Like thousands of others who have had their money seized in an airport, Lyon didn't know at the time the TSA was on the line with a federal agent.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
How you doing?
Good.
Lyon landed in an airport interrogation room. Officers and the TSA searched his bags there and photographed the cash inside. An hour and a half later,
Mr. Lyon, the detective here to chat with you.
Raleigh-Durham Airport police officer Aaron Woodleaf walked in. Woodleaf, a civilian airport officer at.
And so we've seen this before also. So they'll be on the phone with an attorney general or a government agent trying to figure out how they can steal this guy's money, and then they can send it to the federal government, and then the federal government gets to keep some of it. But then these people who seize the money, they get that money for their agency, right? So it's a huge bonus to them. And that'll go towards things like buying better equipment, maybe even giving bonuses to their staff. So it's just absolutely unbelievable, guys. Give me a bunch of ones if you think that this is basically evil theft.
Times,
Man, he pull out like 10 badges.
becomes a Fed when he needs to.
The TFOs get silver badges. We don't get the cool guy on gold badges. Task force officers. So we're duly sworn. It's kind of crazy.
So see that? So a state officer can all of a sudden become a deputized federal agent when they want to steal your cash. Think about that, how ridiculous that is. Did you guys catch that? Give me a bunch of ones if you understand what's going on. If not, I'll include links in the description so you can watch these yourself.
Jurisdiction beyond our normal property when we need to.
Woodleaf questioned Lyon about his trip, why he didn't have a return ticket, and why he did not have a hotel booked in California.
By the way, this is where the Fourth Amendment comes into play. Never, ever, ever give a statement to any of these jackboot thugs who are trying to steal from you. I mean, obviously he's a black guy. I think they're targeting him because he's black. That I always think that. And they're thieves. They're road pirates. Look at what these guys are doing to this guy. It's unbelievable. Don't ever give a statement. Give me a bunch of ones that you understand this. Never, ever talk to police, ever, without a lawyer present. All you're doing is participating in an investigation against yourself. Repeat after me. Never, ever, ever talk to police without a lawyer present. You are basically condemning yourself to prison or having your money stolen. Please make sure you give me a bunch of ones that you understand. Give me a bunch of twos if you don't, so I can explain it to you further.
California. Mentioning no other evidence, the agent told Lyon he wasn't leaving with his money.
I think there's probably some legitimacy to your claims, but based on just some of these findings, I'm going to seize your money under administrative seizure for Homeland Security, and we're going to give you about 60 days to come up with an appeal. You receive the stuff in the mail, and the U.S. Attorney's Office will be give you a chance to provide legitimacy for your money. It's just something, and it feels like there's something more here. You got a last minute purchase on your ticket, or you don't have any accommodation. It's just odd. Nothing's wrong with it, but I just feel it's odd.
Agent Woodliff told Lyon he planned to open one or more federal investigations into his personal life, his business and finances, and he'd get search warrants for his cell phones. But then offered Lyon a way to buy out of those federal investigations.
We do have abandonment forms here as well, and if you choose to forego the seizure of the phones in any investigation, you can walk away from that money. I don't know. Those are all your options. Those are all your options. I'm going to seize the money, but if you want to walk away from a federal investigation.
So just so you guys know, in the real world, that's called blackmail, right? Like, I won't rat you out if you let me have your money. That's called blackmail, right? You guys understand blackmail and extortion? This is legalized extortion. And remember, guys, people who really understand me and my channel, I'm a natural law advocate. So there are two types of laws. There is legal and there is lawful. Legal is what the government says or a politician says is okay to do. And lawful is natural law. What is lawful under your unalienable rights that were granted to you by your creator? Clearly, this is unlawful. And lawful always trumps legal. Repeat after me. Lawful trumps legal. These people are not good people, and they're trying to strip this man of his property. Let's get into it.
Linked to the money, those are your options. If we do a federal investigation, I'll probably end up figuring out your favorite color, your favorite food. We're looking at your bank account, that kind of investigation.
That's just it's another scare tactic that they use to get you to do what they want you to do.
That's right.
To give up that money without
a fight.
Amen.
You sign right here and walk out the door.
If it appears that government agents are asking people to sign over money to avoid a federal investigation, essentially sign this money over to us and we'll pretend this never happened, how is that fighting crime?
It's not.
William Pruden, an asset forfeiture attorney in Raleigh, represents Ramon Lyon and Cody James.
Trying to get this guy to come
Pruden
on my
says
show.
these seizures put innocent people in an impossible spot, having to prove to the government they're not criminals. In all of the cases that you've handled where currency has been seized at an airport, how many of your cases resulted in a criminal prosecution?
None.
Not a single one.
None of my civil asset forfeiture cases, even outside of the airport.
That appears to be the norm. Homeland Security data shows in the more than 30,000 cash seizures between 2000 and 2016, prosecutors filed a criminal action in less than 10% of those cases. In court filings, the feds attempted to connect Lyon to a California to the Carolinas drug trafficking investigation, but the government never claimed Lyon was the subject of that investigation. Only that the amount of money he had, how he packed it into his bags, along with having 2 cell phones, was consistent with the drug trafficking techniques. Lyon says he knew he wasn't leaving with his cash as soon as agents pulled his criminal record. Lyon has a criminal record dating back to 1993, a record littered with multiple felony drug convictions, weapons charges, and eluding arrest. But his last convictions happened a decade ago.
Once he saw that I had a record, it was just open game. I was open game for him.
Yep.
He was like, I'm about to have a field day with this guy.
Despite the rap sheet, Agent Woodliff wanted to make Ramon.
And that really makes me angry. You know, somebody who has a criminal record and they've served their time, they've paid their debt to society. More proof that we're all commerce, right? Debt to society, commerce. They're still being punished because of what happened so many years ago when they run into one of these jackboot thugs like this guy sitting here who goes from, I guess, a state officer to a federal officer when he wants to extort money from people. Absolutely unacceptable to me. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree.
Lion a deal.
Sign this, nobody from the U.S. Attorney's Office will contact you, and we won't be,
They probably won't contact him.
any type of investigation. It ends when we vote on that.
The investigative tactics displayed in this video have caused law firms like Dan Albin's to sue, to force the government to prove its allegations before taking things that don't belong to it. Is it more about fighting crime, or is the outcome more about scooping up this money?
That's it.
And somewhere along the way,
It's not a crime.
the original intent has been lost.
This is definitely about raising revenue and
That's
not about fighting crime.
All it
I
is.
mean, I knew they was going to see it, you know, but I didn't think like I said, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong.
15 months later, federal prosecutors have not charged Ramon Lyon with a
course.
crime,
Why would they?
but still
Had no
have his
evidence.
money. Did they accuse you of being tied to money laundering or drug trafficking?
Yeah,
Did they prove it?
no,
Are you being prosecuted?
So that accusation, if it was said in front of another person, could be deemed libel and slander per se, because they would be accusing him of a crime of fraud or dishonesty with zero evidence. Think about that, guys. Unbelievable what these people are getting away with. This is why we need to seriously curtail these administrative agencies. In my opinion, we should abolish most of the federal administrative agencies. They're out of hand. The employees, basically the servant has become the master. You saw what happened with Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, how they got those bogus NSA warrants against Carter Page, and they came up with the false Russia narrative, and we know that was all a lie now. But that actually helped, destroy a president's career. It was all lies. There was no proof. It was just all bullshit. And they get away with it. These are administrative agents now getting involved in political operations, just like the CIA does overseas to other countries when they topple empires. You don't think it's beyond some bureaucrat to try to do it here? Really? Are you on drugs? If you don't think that, I'm probably not the right channel for you to be viewing.
no.
What's going on here?
I got robbed. They just robbed me. That's what's going on.
Not a single agency conducting these seizures would talk with us about them. Homeland Security did send us a statement saying its ICE investigations deal with money laundering that supports transnational criminal organizations by targeting courier networks that use the nation's airports to conceal and transport illicit proceeds. DHS, again, though, would not agree to talk with us about any.
These are the same people, right, that allow a wide open border where we have drug cartels flooding our country with undocumented children that are disappearing as soon as they get here. Fentanyl, drugs, criminals from third world countries like Venezuela, Tren de Aragua, flooding Aurora, Colorado, causing mass crime, mass unalivings of citizens and having their way with our women. And they have the audacity to tell us that we're involved in some kind of unlawful activity where they can literally steal our money. Give me a bunch of ones if you think it's the biggest hypocrisy in the world. And it's actually destroying the credibility of our government to the vast majority of critical thinkers in this country, which is probably why they want to flood our country with peasants who are incapable of critical thinking. They would love nothing more than to have communist Chinese nationals come into our country because they worship the state. They're terrified of the state. Absolutely. That's why prosecutors love to have them on the jury, because they always find in favor of the state. I mean, I know that from having worked for the prosecutor's office. I mean, think about it, guys.
Of these cases. There is federal legislation that could end these seizures if the government cannot prove the people they're targeting are indeed criminals. Congressman Tim Walberg, a Michigan Republican, has once again this session introduced the Fifth Amendment Integrity Act.
Civil asset forfeiture has been used too many times to seize, forfeit, and indeed profit off the property of Americans without even charging them with crimes.
Well, this FAIR Act could eliminate these seizures for people where the government cannot provide clear and convincing evidence of a crime. But this legislation has stalled in congressional committees. Since each of these federal agencies fall under the executive branch, I asked the White House for an interview. President Biden was a co-author on this 1984 legislation that allowed these seizures, but no one in the Biden administration would agree to interview with us.
Gee, I wonder
From
why.
the Raleigh-Durham International Airport, I'm Jody Barr.
Incredible investigation. And Jody has put together a more in-depth article online. You can find surveillance videos and the TSA's response on fox46.com.
Pretty good show. You know, I've been finding some.
When
pretty-
federal agents
pretty
seize
doggone
cash
good
at
stuff.
airports
Hold on a
across
minute.
the
Been finding some pretty doggone good stuff. Now I've got another one here. This is actually, I think, part one, but we're kind of playing it in reverse. But let me just check out the sidebar here and see if there's any good comments that I can address. That's right, OTVO. Give me a bunch of OTCVs, overturned civil forfeiture laws. OTCV, overturned civil, OTCF. Wait, OTCF, overturned civil forfeiture. Give me a bunch of OTCFs, guys, in the sidebar. I agree with you, Selwyn. We don't need all these politicized government agencies. It's unbelievable the power that they have. These government employee unions are basically turning elections. I mean, you have the letter carriers union with the post office. You know, we have vote by mail supporting Kamala Harris. What does that mean? That means that at least half the country has no faith in our elections because they're just going to assume that these rude postal employees are packing ballots. I mean, you can't even put a dollar bill in the mail without it getting stolen. How hard would it be for some radicalized, somebody radicalized by ABC or CNN to hate, the Republican candidate to put a bunch of fake ballots in the mail? How hard would that be for them? What if there were a bunch of them working in concert? They could literally swing an election. And so now we have a total lack of faith by at least half of the political body, the body politic in our elections. And that's bad. That's really bad. And now we have no voter ID required. And we know that the DMVs are registering illegal aliens to vote, and they are voting all over the place. And when the DMV gets caught or the Secretary of State gets caught, they say it was an accident. It will never happen again. That's nonsense. Way too much power for these government agencies to have. They literally can swing elections, and they have a financial interest, right, in getting bloated government salary. You've been to the DMV, the laziest people you'll ever meet in your life, right? And your money's paying for that. Can you imagine once they have even more political power? Gosh, and we're paying for these people who treat us with disrespect. Unbelievable to me. So let's take another look here at a little bit more what the news has to say about what's going on at the airports with civil asset forfeiture. Just want to lay a nice foundation for you guys so you know what's going on, what your country's doing to you, and what ABC, Communist News Network, PMSNBC just simply won't cover, right? They just don't cover stuff like this. Why? Because they're all part of the same political party, right? They're not going to do anything to prevent government agents who donate tons of money to their political candidate from getting their hands on that money, right? Give me a bunch of ones if you guys agree. And look, I'm not taking political sides here. When the Republicans were more the power brokers, right? Before it flipped, right? Before the Democrats became the party of billionaires, it was the Republicans that were the party of billionaires, right? Now the script has been flipped. I don't support either one. I don't think that either one of them should be able to ever get this kind of power. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with that.
From people who have taken cash inside an airport. And get this, Charlotte Douglas International Airport ranks as the 10th highest for cash seizures in the nation.
Now, the Fed seized $55 million from passengers there from 2000 to 2016. As Fox 46 chief investigator Jody Barr explains tonight, prosecutors rarely charge anyone with a crime, but the government kept the money anyway.
An officer walked up to me and he said, my dog hit your bag, which his dog hadn't even been between my legs at this time, and my bag's in between my legs.
Cody James walked into Charlotte Douglas Airport in July.
And by the way, again, all cash has traces of cocaine on it, right? 90% of it. And we also know that dogs are trained to alert on the smell of ink, of money ink. So, I mean, even if it doesn't have drug residue, the dogs are still going to alert. You understand what's going on, guys? It's a scam. Think about that. It is a scam. Civil asset forfeiture is a scam designed to enrich government agencies. And by virtue of enriching the agency, that enables them to get bloated salaries and more union donations to their political party, which in this case is 99% of the time Democrats.
to catch a flight to Oregon. It was a weekend trip to visit a friend he'd grown up with outside Charlotte. But minutes before boarding,
he said, "You mind if my dog searches your bag? It's a narcotics dog." I said, "I don't mind. I don't have any narcotics." So I went up like this and I handed my bag to him,
warrior.
and he tossed it on the ground like this. And he hollered at his dog, and then he said, "Here." Just like that.
2 law enforcers went into his backpack and found his cash.
He told me from the beginning that he wasn't giving me my money back.
The Transportation Security Administration had just minutes before x-rayed and searched his luggage, then waved him through. James says the TSA never said anything to him about the money. James was about to find out the TSA had tipped off an Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer about that cash.
He just took my money, and then 10 minutes later, 5 to 10 minutes later, he's gone. I can't find anyone. And anything everybody's telling me is to just call that number. It says TFO Brown. His name's Steve Brown.
James missed his flight, and this piece of paper is the only thing he left the airport with.
Look, it's U.S. currency with no amount. It was $27,600.
And why were you traveling with that?
I was traveling with that money because I'm going through a divorce and I have a lot of court costs and stuff to pay. And I can't leave my money in my bank account now because my wife's been taking my money out of it.
James says TFO Steve Brown won't return his calls to find out how.
Another reason why you have to be very careful when selecting a mate, guys. I recommend that you find somebody who has the same religious values as you, and then you date them for several years and you watch them from afar before you even ask them on a date to see how they act. We know that the vast majority of divorces are instituted by the female. Most men, including myself, would rather commit suicide than break up our families. All we want is to have a wife and children and care for them because that's the way God made us. God made us as natural protectors and providers. Give me a bunch of ones if you men agree with me. And I think many of you women also understand that. And of course, you know, I can't speak for the ladies here. And I presume all the ladies on my channel support the way I feel, because you would love to have somebody with my value system protecting your children. I just believe that. I believe that's just natural law, guys. Let's keep going.
And why the government took his money seemingly without reason. Then last month, the government sent him this letter accusing James of possessing money traceable to controlled substances.
Right on.
The letter informed him he could petition the government to try to get his money back.
I had no narcotics on me, absolutely no narcotics at all. And this is what I get.
Do you use any type of drugs?
No, sir.
Do you buy any type of drugs?
No, sir.
Do you sell any type of drugs?
No, sir.
Then what's going on here?
I have no idea. Robbery from the government.
Yep.
James is not alone. Government records obtained from the Department of Homeland Security show from 2000 to 2016, the most recent data available, government agents seized $133 million from people at airports across North Carolina. Agents seized another $18 million from people at South Carolina airports. Over in Atlanta, at one of the nation's busiest airports, agents seized $109 million from people passing through. In those same 16 years, Homeland Security records show $1.8 billion seized from people at airports all across the nation. How many
Just
of
an
those
airport.
cases have turned out to be criminals?
The vast majority of folks who've approached us, we've looked into their situation, and you know that it's not at all evident that these folks are criminals.
Dan Albin is an attorney with a DC-based nonprofit law firm, Institute for Justice. In January, the group filed a class action lawsuit against the TSA, DEA, and the federal government. If successful, the lawsuit could end these seizures, at least for the people who are never charged with a crime. The suit represents potentially thousands of people like Cody James.
It's humiliated me, this whole process.
Where the feds seized their cash and have yet to prove a dime was earned through a criminal act.
And the policy basically is, if we see cash, we will seize it, and they don't ever have to charge those folks with a crime. They don't have to get a conviction in court. They can just accuse the person of having some involvement with drug activity, and they keep their cash forever.
These seizures happen even though the TSA's own rulebook states you can fly domestically with any amount of cash, and you don't have to tell anyone you have it. It says here, TSA Rule 100.4 is traveling with large amounts of currency is not illegal, is what?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not. And that's why I said it's allowed. But again, when it's in the screening checkpoint, again, like I said, if there is a large amount of cash or if the way that it's packaged, it looks strange, then we're going to contact law enforcement.
The TSA was the only federal agency to agree to an
This clown wearing a face diaper. I wonder what party he votes for.
interview. Neither ICE, the DEA, Homeland Security, nor Customs and Border Protection would even discuss scheduling an interview. Since Congress formed the TSA after 9/11, the agencies worked as frontline watchdogs, flagging passengers with cash.
Bottom line is what we're looking for are things that are dangerous on board an aircraft.
Looking to steal people's money.
Those prohibited items, those firearms, things like that we don't want on board or that could jeopardize the aircraft.
Right. They're looking for firearms, but they're stealing your money. Listen to this clown, like just ridiculous. Typical bureaucrat, right? Typical bureaucrat living like a leech off of the taxpayer. Typical.
Say looking at a bundle of cash as a potentially dangerous item to bring on board.
So it really, again, if you're taking a look at at a bag, right? Whenever something looks suspicious or is illegal, they're contacted and brought in at that point.
We want the public to be able to understand exactly in TSA's eyes why this appears to be something so dangerous that it will require calling a federal agent in to intercept it.
We don't seize it. The most we're going to do is notify law enforcement, and they will make the determination. So the framework is in place where if we see something suspicious.
Congress gave these agencies the power to seize in the 1984 Comprehensive Crime Control Act. The legislation was intended to fight organized crime and drug traffickers by stripping them of the money earned from their crimes. The law enforcement.
Here's what they do. The government creates a crisis. They create, like flooding the country with illegals and drugs, right? Till one of these people sets off a dirty bomb or flies an airplane into a building. And then they pass a law to restrict your rights and take away your Fourth Amendment freedoms, your Eighth Amendment freedoms. That's all they do. Rahm Emanuel said it best. Let no crisis go to waste. And that's exactly what they're doing, guys. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with me. That's what they're doing. The government creates a crisis, and then they pass a law that affects and steals away your freedoms because of the crisis that they created.
Agencies seizing that money get to keep it. Those fighting the government in these seizure cases argue innocent people are getting nabbed along the way. If DHS was not allowed to keep 100% of these proceeds, do you believe that this would, if not stop tomorrow, would significantly decrease?
It would dramatically decrease. That is what is driving almost all of this activity.
Of course.
There is a way for people to try to get this money back. The government files what's known as a civil asset forfeiture case in federal court, usually titled the United States versus whatever dollar amount
Your money.
seized. People then have to hire an attorney to go to court. But since these cases are not criminal, you have to prove you earned the money legally.
There is no presumption of innocence in civil forfeiture cases. And so all the government has to do is show that it's more likely than not that their cash is somehow connected to a crime, meaning it's 51% likely.
Is there any guarantee that even with an attorney involved that they will get their money back?
Unfortunately, there is no guarantee. The cards are stacked in favor of the federal government. And even a perfectly innocent person probably does not have very good odds of getting their property back once it's been seized.
This right here is my W-2 of 2020, and I made $89,567 through legally working at a Credo Packaging in Houston, Texas.
Cody James is going through that right now as he fights to get back his $27,000 in savings taken from him at the Charlotte airport in July.
I shouldn't have to keep explaining myself of what I'm doing with my money when I'm not doing nothing illegal. No one had nothing illegal on them. No one was doing nothing illegal.
And the government is now, you're going to have to prove to the
government that where all this money came from, when they should have to prove why they took all this money.
An interrogation inside the Raleigh airport and a federal agent looking to make a deal.
if you choose to abandon and walk away from the money in any type of federal investigation.
Blackmail and extortion.
If it appears that government agents are asking people to essentially sign this money over to us and we'll pretend this never happened, how is that fighting crime?
It's not.
Behind airport doors, coming up when our cash grab investigation continues.
Parasites.
After the break. When federal agents seize cash at airports across the country, we rarely get a look at what happens next. Sometimes that's an interrogation. Tonight, we're getting a look at one of those interrogations that happened here inside the Raleigh airport last year, where a federal agent seized $115,000 from a passenger. That interrogation quickly turned into the federal agent looking
We'll
to
watch
make
this
a deal.
again, guys. We saw this earlier.
I'm like, I just got robbed.
I want you guys to see this.
I can't believe I just got robbed, like without a gun. Like I've been robbed before, but like, without no gun. Like just, it was the nicest robbery ever.
Ramon Lyon strolled through the Raleigh airport last June to hop on a flight to California. He had $115,000 in his luggage. Cash, he says, he had to purchase machines for his gaming business in Raleigh. Airport surveillance video shows the TSA screened Lyon's luggage, then grabbed his bag after an x-ray revealed cash inside. The TSA officer walked Lyon's bag to a table where a Raleigh airport officer.
Everybody congratulate Forrest Goodwin. He just earned himself a wrench. Forrest Goodwin. Ding, 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 ding. We got a new mod, guys. Ding, ding, ding. Bunch of ones for Forrest. By the way, everybody, you guys know me. I'm trying to create parallel systems. I expect all of you guys to subscribe to each other's channels and support each other's businesses. That's what we want to do. We want to create parallel systems like Martin Luther King Jr. did when those shopkeepers discriminated against him. Kind of the way Target discriminates against parents with all their satanic sexualization and pro-trans crap all over their stores. That's what we do. We just stop shopping there and we support each other because we believe in liberty and freedom. And we don't believe that these big corporations like BlackRock and their friends like this who steal our money should be able to come and destroy our lives and our families.
Joined in, like thousands of others who have had their money seized in an airport. Lyon didn't know at the time the TSA was on the line with a federal agent.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
How you doing?
Good.
Lyon landed in an airport interrogation room. Officers and the TSA searched his bags there and photographed the cash inside. An hour and a half later,
Mr. Lyon, the detective's here to chat with you.
Raleigh-Durham Airport police officer Aaron Woodleaf walked in. Woodleaf, a civilian airport officer at times,
Man, he pull out like 10 badges.
becomes a Fed when he needs to.
Bingo.
CFOs get silver badges. We don't get the cool guy gold badges.
Insane. Insane.
Task force officers. So we're duly sworn. It's kind of crazy. We got jurisdiction beyond our normal property when we need to.
Woodleaf questioned Lyon about his trip, why he didn't have a return ticket, and why he did not have a hotel booked in California. Mentioning no other evidence, the agent told Lyon he wasn't leaving with his money.
I think there's probably some legitimacy to your claim, but based on
That's a disgrace.
findings, I'm going to seize your money.
People like this would have been tarred and feathered. Our founding fathers would have never, ever allowed stuff like this to happen, guys. This is disgusting.
Under administrative seizure for Homeland Security, and we're going to give you about 60 days to come up with an appeal.
This makes my blood boil. So unacceptable.
Give you a chance to provide legitimacy for your money. It's just something.
Can you imagine if that was your husband, you ladies, that was your husband and that was money for your children, for their school, their education?
Accommodation. It's just odd.
It's disgusting to me.
I just feel it's odd.
Agent Woodleaf told Lyon he planned to open one or more federal investigations into his personal life, his business and finances, and he'd get search warrants for his cell phones. But then offered Lyon a way to buy out of those federal investigations.
We do have abandonment forms here as well if you choose to forego the.
We covered this before. This would be called extortion and blackmail if this wasn't a cop who gets to wear his badge of the day, right? I mean, this is like Andy Griffith. I don't get it, where the guy pulls out. Man, this is just blowing my mind.
Your other phones in any investigation. you can walk away from that money. I don't know. Those are all your options. Those are all your options. I'm going to seize the money, but if you want to walk away from a federal investigation that's linked to the money, those are your options. If we do a federal investigation, I'll probably end up figuring out your favorite color, your favorite food, we're looking at your bank account, that kind of investigation.
That's just it's another scare tactic that they use to get you to do what they want you to do.
Yep.
To give up that money without
To give
a
up
fight.
that money without a fight.
That's right.
Sign right here and walk out the door.
If it appears that government agents are asking people to sign over money to avoid a federal investigation, essentially sign this money over to us and we'll pretend this never happened, how is that fighting crime?
It's not.
William Pruden, an asset forfeiture attorney in Raleigh, represents Ramon Lyon and Cody James. Pruden says these seizures put innocent people in an impossible spot,
That's right.
having to prove to the government they're not criminals. In all of the cases that you've handled where currency has been seized at an airport, how many of your cases resulted in a criminal prosecution?
None.
Not a single one.
None of my civil asset forfeiture cases, even outside of airport.
Yeah.
That appears to be the norm. Homeland Security data shows in the more than 30,000 cash seizures between 2000 and 2016, prosecutors filed a criminal action in less than 10% of those cases. In court filings, the feds attempted to connect Lyon to a California to the Carolinas drug trafficking investigation, but the government never claimed Lyon was the subject of that investigation. Only that the amount of money he had, how he packed it into his bags, along with having 2 cell phones, was consistent with the drug trafficking techniques. Lyon says he knew he wasn't leaving with his cash as soon as agents pulled his criminal record. Lyon has a criminal record dating back to 1993, a record littered with multiple felony drug convictions, weapons charges, and eluding arrest.
Right.
But his last convictions happened a decade ago.
Once he saw that I had a record, it was just open game. I was open game for him.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm about to have a field day with this guy.
Despite the
This cracks me up, right? Because, if you guys know about Bill Clinton and Mena, Arkansas, and you know how politicians are involved in the drug business, the CIA flooding Los Angeles with drugs, Compton with crack cocaine, but yet they go after this dude and try to take away everything from him. Why don't we start going after all these ABC agencies and taking their shit from them instead of going after the citizens, right? What I mean, think about how ridiculous this is, guys. This is unbelievable to me. I'm just beside myself right now in disgust.
The rap sheet, Agent Woodliff wanted to make Ramon Lyon a deal.
Sign this. Nobody from the U.S. Attorney's Office will contact you, and we won't be seeking any type of investigation. It ends when we post on that.
The investigative tactics displayed in this video have caused law firms like Dan Albin's to sue, to force the government to prove its allegations before taking things that don't belong to it. Is it more about fighting crime, or is the outcome more about scooping up this money and somewhere along the way, the original intent has been lost?
This is definitely about raising revenue and not about fighting crime.
I mean, I knew they was going to see it, but I didn't think I didn't think I was doing anything wrong.
15 months later, federal prosecutors have not charged Ramon Lyon with a crime, but still have his money. Did they accuse you of being tied to money laundering or drug trafficking?
Yeah.
Did they prove it?
No.
Are you being prosecuted?
No.
What's going on here?
I got robbed. They just robbed me.
Amen, brother. That's exactly what happened.
Not a single agency conducting these seizures would talk with us about
Of course not.
Homeland Security did send us a statement saying its ICE investigations deal with money laundering that supports transnational criminal organizations by targeting.
Yeah, like the ABC agencies. So we've seen this. So let's get into the next video. Let me just let me see here. Yeah, Scott says innocent until proven guilty, or guilty until you're proven innocent. But here's the problem. There's no guilt here. This is a civil asset forfeiture, and it's a creature of maritime law, of international admiralty maritime law. That's where this came from. And somehow or another, it was injected into our republic, and it shouldn't have been, because under American law, The government is supposed to be bound by the chains of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. This is an English common law, admiralty, maritime law system that they're using, and it's in contravention of our republic. Remember, America is a constitutional republic. We're not a democracy. Our founding fathers loathed and spoke out against democracy as being dangerous because it allows this exact type of thing to happen. This exact type of thing to happen. It's really, really sad. Now, let me see here. Amanda Elliott says go after real criminals. And I agree with that, Amanda. But the problem is they're not even treating these people as criminals. They're actually making a civil claim against the money. That's what it is. And they actually when they file their civil asset forfeiture lawsuits, they file the lawsuit against the money. So it would be the federal government, the Attorney General of the United States versus $10,000 in seized assets. They don't even have your name on it. It's just crazy. But that's what really is going on, guys. So let's get into the next video. Get the volume going here. All right.
Watch out. Yeah, a new federal lawsuit alleges those agencies are confiscating it without any reason to believe a crime has been committed. Fox 46 investigator Matt Grant is live outside the Charlotte Douglas International Airport. Matt, one of those seizures took place right there.
Yeah, Morgan, this 112-page class action lawsuit accuses the DEA and the TSA of illegally seizing money from air travelers, including here at Charlotte Douglas International, simply because they were carrying too much cash.
Too much cash.
We're trying to shut this down because the government should not be treating travelers like ATMs.
A federal
Amen.
class action lawsuit accuses the TSA and DEA of seizing money from air travelers without any indication of criminal activity, simply because they're traveling with a large amount of cash.
It's not illegal to have cash on you, so how can these agencies just take your money?
You're right. It's absolutely legal to travel with any amount of money domestically. But unfortunately, TSA and DEA have policies that treat what they consider to be large amounts of money as presumptively suspicious and indicative of criminal activity.
Dan Alvin is a senior attorney with the Institute for Justice, a nonprofit civil liberties law firm suing on behalf of thousands of passengers.
If you travel through an airport with more than $5,000 or $10,000,
That's right, Onion Head,
and it's detected
1972. I
when you
agree.
go through TSA security screening, they will stop you, they will detain you, they will interrogate you, and more likely than not, they will seize your cash.
It happened to Stacy Jones. She and her husband traveled to Wilmington last year. According to the lawsuit, they sold their 2016 Maserati for $28,000 cash, money authorities confiscated at the airport.
I mean, we didn't do anything.
I used to have a 2016 Maserati Ghibli like that, but it was all decked out with 24s, had it slammed. It was badass, but just like a Dodge Charger on the inside. She's lucky she got 20 grand for it.
Wrong. There was no evidence of wrongdoing. We were searched. The dogs sniffed all of our property. I was even followed into the restroom by a female officer.
The lawsuit says a similar incident happened at Charlotte Douglas in 2015 when TSA seized $55,000 in cash from the owner of a transportation company. The lawsuit says the man planned to use the money to buy a tour bus.
It's absolutely absurd and it's unconstitutional.
The DEA says it cannot comment even generally about these policies, citing the ongoing litigation. I also reached out to the TSA, but did not hear back.
How frustrating for those.
So Brandon brings up a good point. So I just put it up there. Brando brings up a good point. Are we supposed to travel with a receipt? It doesn't matter. They don't care. They'll take it anyways. One of my fellow Marines who was a Gulf War vet got pulled over in Nevada, and they took all of his money, his whole life savings, and basically left him stranded with nothing. And he had receipts in the bag with the cash, bank receipts. So they just don't give a shit, man. They just want your money because they know it's going to help them get a promotion. It's going to help them get a new police cruiser for their department, while they go out and go to strip clubs or whatever they do, while they're cheating on their wives or beating them. And that's what's going on, guys. That's the reality of what's going on in this country. And you want a single party system, which is on the way with illegal aliens voting. The whole country is going to be a single party system, just like communist China. Do you honestly think it's going to get any better when we have nobody fighting against this? If you go against anything the government says, they'll just throw you in jail like those Jan 6ers, not giving you any opportunity even to see your lawyer. Think about what's on the horizon, guys. It's coming at lightning speed.
People, Matt, where is the money now and what does the DEA do with it?
Well, 4 of the named plaintiffs in the lawsuit did eventually get their money back, one after almost a year and after the filing of this lawsuit. But the Institute for Justice says that a lot of the times there's no criminal charges ever filed in these cases, and that the money that's seized goes into a federal forfeiture fund, which can be used for any law enforcement purposes.
Bingo!
Live in Charlotte Douglas International, Matt Grant, Fox 46.
Any, which means, promotions and stuff like that, so it's just unbelievable, guys. Just unbelievable what these dudes are getting away with. Let me just look in the comments really quick, guys. By the way, I want to thank all my mods again for showing up. Wanda Mise, Jeff, Onionhead 1972 says, this is what makes Americans lose hope in the country too. Many of them make too much money to change the laws. That's right. Look, these agencies, when they seize that money, it can be used for any purpose, right? So they can use it to get a promotion, give themselves bonuses, buy a brand new cruiser, get the upgraded AR-15 or M16 M4s with the tri-burst, the 3-round burst. I mean, they get all the good stuff, and they got it going on, guys. Unbelievable amounts of money. They can build a brand new police station. Again, bloated salaries, all at your expense. It is crazy, and they're allowed to get away with it. It's robbery. And in many cases, I believe it's murder, because they're literally murdering families, because when a man cannot provide or a family cannot provide for themselves and their money is stolen by these government scum of the earth, there's no way they can survive. They lose everything. They'll lose their home, they'll lose their cars, and there's nothing they can do about it. You can hire me, but then, a lawyer, unless I'm able to afford working pro bono, you're going to have to pay an attorney's fee. You're never going to get all your money back. And they don't pay interest either. It's crazy. Here, let's watch this video and you'll see some more craziness.
Fly with cash, and law enforcement could take it without ever having to prove you did something wrong.
We were talking about this in the commercial break. It's happening regularly at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. Channel 2 consumer investigator Justin Gray is here now. So, Justin, it could be a long and expensive process, you found out, to get that money back, even if it's legitimately yours.
And, George, that's the wildest part of this whole thing. Not only are law enforcement agencies like DA seizing people's money at Hartsfield-Jackson without a warrant, they're keeping it. Brian Moore Jr. was flying from Atlanta to LA to shoot a music video.
I had about $8,500 on me.
Jerry Johnson was heading to Phoenix with the cash to buy a truck at auction.
It was $39,500.
Both men left the airport with their cash gone, seized by law enforcement.
It's nothing different being robbed. Somebody come up with a gun and take your money and then walk off.
This is a picture a DEA agent snapped of Brian Moore. That's him in the green hair at the gate at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, heading to
And I also want to point something out to you guys. You see a pattern here? Like, black males make up about 3 to 6% of the population. But notice how they're constantly being targeted by TSA. Almost all the videos we've seen so far involves black males with large amounts of cash. They're taking their money, right? Tell me they're not being targeted, guys. Tell me they're not being profiled. Just tell me with a straight face.
Los Angeles.
They announced we were about to start boarding, and I was approached by 2 women.
Moore says they asked if he was carrying guns or drugs. He wasn't. They asked about cash, which he did have.
I've never been in a situation to where I was being treated as a terrorist or a criminal.
Moore says he explained to the DA agents the money was his to pay for his music video from the sale of his grandfather's car he inherited.
They put my money in a big Ziploc bag, and they told me I was free to go. They were like, you might want to leave or you're going to miss your flight.
This is Moore's money in the
Right on,
Ziploc.
Brett.
DEA
Cool.
kept the money, but never mentioned anything about a crime.
Nobody ever charged you with a crime? I was never charged.
You were never convicted of a crime?
Never convicted of a crime.
But they took your money.
They took my money.
Yeah.
And did not give it back.
Did not give it back.
It happens every day at airports all across the country.
So this dude got a cash windfall, right? He sold his grandfather's car from an inheritance. You think this guy's going to be able to afford a lawyer? I think that's why they target especially black people, because they know, as a general rule, they're going to be underprivileged. They're not going to have the ability to be able to afford a lawyer. I mean, give me a bunch of ones if you think that's the reason why they target them. See a black dude with a bunch of cash, let's target him. He'll never be able to afford a lawyer. F him. That's how these government bureaucrats think, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but look at what's going on in Chicago. They're replacing all the black people with illegal aliens, and they're getting pissed. Think about it, guys. Just think about it.
Including right here in Atlanta.
They don't want to prosecute the person. They just want their money.
Dan Albin is an attorney at the Institute for Justice. He fought in courts for years to get open records data from Homeland Security on seizures. That data shows that here at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson, just one agency, Customs and Border Protection,
to me.
seized more than
Furious right
$108
now.
million in cash from travelers between.
Reverse the shoe, guys. Remember, this will happen to you at some point. At some point, white people are going to be the minority, right? We will be. Imagine this is happening to your family right now. That's why I support the constitutional republic, where the rights of the individual always, always, always surpass the rights of the majority or the mob. That's why our founding fathers did not want us to be a democracy, where 51% of the people could decide, where two wolves and a lamb sit down and decides what's on the menu. That's a democracy. Where two wolves and a well-armed lamb sit down and decide what's on the menu. That's a republic. Let's go.
2000 and 2016.
These law enforcement agencies get to keep the money that they seize, and they view these seizures as a source of revenue.
Jerry Johnson says he never heard from law enforcement again after they walked off with his $39,000 in cash.
That's right,
Nobody ever contacted
Absolutely. It
me.
makes me
Nobody
sick.
asked me any questions. I never heard nothing from them after they seized my money.
That's typical according to the government's own studies. A 2017 DOJ Inspector General review looked at a sample of 100 DEA seizures and found only 44 of those advanced or were even related to a criminal investigation. The same year, a Treasury Inspector General review found 91% of the money seized in cases it looked at was from a legal source.
People should be free to travel with their own money.
Brian Moore sued to get his money back. It took 2 years, and he won the case.
I mean, how is this even a conversation?
But legal fees ate up most of his money by the time it was finally over.
After about an almost 2-year process, I got back a little under $3,000.
The DEA refused our requests for an interview or even to provide written comment,
They're
directing us
scum.
instead to a page on their website that says DEA, quote, uses forfeiture to attack the financial structure of drug trafficking and money laundering groups worldwide. But Brian Moore is a military.
Excuse me? The government is the largest money laundering group in the world. Give me a bunch of ones if you understand that.
Veteran and musician. Nobody ever provided any evidence claiming he was trafficking money or drugs.
I thought I would at least find out what I did wrong. And, you know, to this day, I still haven't found out what was suspicious about me or what I did that was suspicious.
And Moore is now suing the federal government again to try to get his legal fees paid for all of this. Jerry Johnson also
Good luck,
sued and
dude.
eventually did.
So there you go. I mean, you see it before your own eyes. I'm not telling you anything you probably didn't already know. All right. So here's another one. It's only a couple minutes. Guys, I'm just so disgusted. I cannot believe what's going on out there, guys. Look, I've been a lawyer for almost 20 years, and this kind of stuff, it sickens me that people can have their everything's taken from them by these scumbag bureaucrats, and they hide behind these petty, stupid laws to try to destroy people's lives. It's just really, really sad, people. And again, that's why I invite all of you to form parallel systems and stop participating in systems that violate your rights on a daily basis. Stop participating in the corporate structure that enriches these people to have these cushy jobs, right? Because we know that the people that donate money to their political campaigns are the reason why they're able to do this. So if you stop enriching these corporations that donate money to them and you start helping each other directly, that's going to take away more of their power. And they're going to be forced to take heed and start honoring the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Clearly, civil asset forfeiture laws are against the American constitutional law, Republican form of government. Obviously, these people should be in prison for what they're doing to the American people. Let's go and watch this one.
Love Field, a check bag, a canine, and over $100,000 in cash. Add them up, and you got a conversation Dallas PD probably wasn't expecting.
We have many cases where they cannot prove that you did anything wrong with that money, but they take it.
State Representative Matt Schaefer is talking about civil asset forfeiture. It's what allowed this picture to even happen. The money belonged to a 25-year-old woman from Chicago who had a layover last week. Her bag had nothing but the cash, some bubble wrap, and blankets inside. It's suspicious, but not enough to charge her with anything. Still, under Texas law, police can seize the money if they think it will eventually be involved in a crime. It happens all the time in the state, even in situations like this where no crime is actually happening. And it can involve property of all kinds, like guns or cars. To get it back, you have to hire an attorney and go to court.
A person does not even have to be charged with a crime in order for law enforcement to seize their property.
By the way, cities can use seized cash to help with their budgets. Schaefer actually tried to pass civil asset forfeiture reform this previous legislative session, but it never made it to Governor Abbott. He wanted to make the burden of proof to seize property much more challenging.
And if they're going to take somebody's property away, they have to prove their case by clear and convincing evidence.
Speaker of the Texas House, Dade Phelan, even tweeted about this case, saying Schaefer should saddle up and try to pass reform again.
Right on, Chad.
Special detectives did do an investigation before taking the money, but DPD won't say what that entailed. $100,000 in a suitcase sure sounds fishy, but Schaefer says more hurdles should be in place before police can just walk away with it. In Dallas, I'm Matt Howerton.
So that's an example of a state agency, right? So we were talking about TSA earlier, and that was an example of the Dallas Police State Agency. So, and what they'll do is they'll send the money to the Attorney General because it's harder, because they know that state court judges generally are more likely to return the money than a federal, right? And so, and then what'll happen is the Attorney General or whatever will send a percentage back to the police department. They get to use that money however they want, right? It's crazy. Check this one out.
Imagine if police seize thousands of dollars from you without ever charging you with a crime. And instead of proving your guilt, authorities expect you to somehow prove your innocence in order to keep your own property. That's exactly what happened to Jerry Johnson. En route to Arizona to buy a used semi-truck for his growing small business, police stopped Jerry at the Phoenix airport and seized almost $40,000 from him.
I thought you had to do something illegal for him to seize your money.
Jerry hired a lawyer, but a judge ruled that he didn't even have standing to fight for his money in court. That's when IJ got involved and appealed. Eventually, a higher court ruled that nobody has to prove their own innocence just to dispute a forfeiture. After 31 grueling months without his money, during a pandemic, Jerry finally got his money back, with interest. Jerry's case perfectly illustrates the injustice of civil forfeiture. Even if you win, it may take years to get your savings back.
That's right.
Imagine if police seize thousands of dollars from you without ever charging you with a crime. And instead of proving your guilt, authorities expect you to somehow prove your innocence in order to keep your own property.
Crazy.
That's exactly what happened to Jerry Johnson.
Yep.
En route to Arizona to buy a used semi-truck for his growing small business.
So we're just watching it replay itself. Okay. So so really quick, since we're talking about airports, now we're going to talk about these airport scanners, because this is something I had to deal with this weekend when I went to visit my mother in San Diego. And so there's two types of scanners. They don't use the ionizing radiation ones anymore, but they did. So we're going to talk about how the government and the CDC and the FDA, with their revolving door employment schemes, right, where they go back and forth to work for big pharma and then come back, and they control policy. They get to decide what's safe and effective. Typically, it's something they're selling, right, where the government might force you to take it, right? Think about that. They get to decide what's safe and effective with your tax dollars. And so I don't know if you guys remember this, but when they originally installed these machines in the airports, they were installing a type of radiation. Really quick, I'm going to tell you what it is. Backscatter scanners. So they were using backscatter scanners at these airports, all right? And they said it's perfectly safe and effective. It's not going to harm you. Of course, then we found out later that it wasn't safe and effective, right? And that it was also under the guise of more privacy, so they wouldn't see your private parts. They started putting in these millimeter wave scanners. And they said, well, those are even safer, right? Those are even safer. And we're going to talk about that really quick and how I think that they're all totally unsafe. And I always demand a pat-down search, which I recommend everybody does. Because, in my opinion, It's based on the exposure over your lifetime. And there are many scientists and doctors who agree with me. But again, because the government and the WHO gets to decide what's safe and effective, right? They'll create a false sense of scientific consensus by silencing all the doctors who disagree, like they just did over the last several years, silencing the doctors and scientists who disagree by shutting down their social media, by trying to go after their medical and scientific permits, refusing to publish their papers. And that's what's really going on. It's a good old boy network now. It's all based on money and revolving door employment with CEOs going back and forth. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I don't have a whole lot of time. I can tell a lot of you guys are getting tired, but I want to share a couple of these videos with you because I can always come back and do another one on airport scanners and millimeter wave scanners and their dangers. But right now, let's just watch this because this is something they were telling us years ago. It's perfectly safe and effective.
Denied any danger from the machines that scan you and me at airport security checkpoints. A new plan to test security workers at more than 100 airports nationwide has some questioning those denials. According to the Los Angeles Times, the TSA plans to test workers to see if they're exposed to dangerous levels of radiation while working with those machines. The TSA does not plan on checking passengers or the machines themselves.
Sure, why not?
NBC
Why would
15
they?
now wants to know what you think about this new development. Critics of those full body scanners have been calling for independent tests on how much radiation they emit. Do you have any concerns about passing through those machines?
And here to talk about all this, Valley businessman Michael Pollack. Michael, thank you so much for being with us. Let's get right to it. What are your thoughts on this? Do you have concerns of radiation with these devices?
Well, I actually do, but I feel bad that I have to because, here we're talking about this subject and now they're going to be testing people. You would hope, so to speak, before the horse gets out of the barn that we lock the door. Well, before they put these things in, I would have hoped that the testing would have taken place so that we're not in a position where we're wondering now, is it harmful or is it dangerous?
I've actually done these stories and I went to the TSA website. We have what's called the backscatter machine at Sky Harbor, and that's the one with the two walls that you might see, not that circular pod that you've seen, but the backscatter machine, according to the TSA, says one backscatter technology scan produces the same exposure as 2 minutes of flying on an airplane. Do you buy it?
Yeah. Do I
Different
buy
kind
it?
of radiation.
Well, I'm probably not the best one to ask whether it's technically right or wrong, but I think, again, we should have done all this research and all this homework before we got to the class. It's after you spend, I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it's got to be a huge amount that's already been invested.
And more's on the way, I'll tell you that right now.
And more advanced technology.
In the business world, if we go out and spend a whole bunch of money and we don't test our theories first a little bit, and then we all of a sudden end up having to pay the bill. It's not a great idea. So, and sometimes we find in the non-business climates that people do things and then ask questions later, but we really probably ought to ask those questions first.
Yeah, there's a consumer advocacy group called We Won't Fly who have been pushing for this independent testing to go on. And now that they're taking it to the screeners themselves and not the passengers, do you think they're admitting here maybe there is a little something we need to look at?
Well, I don't know if they're admitting. I mean, I'm hoping, because as you probably know, I fly a lot. And so I'm hoping that there's no danger to the passengers. I'm hoping there's no danger to the screeners.
Right.
And if there is, I feel really bad that somebody somehow, some way let this go through and spent all this money on all these different airports. And as you were saying, they're getting ready to spend even more.
Yes, they are.
To me, that would be a real waste and a real shame if that happens.
All right, let's go to the viewer comments. A lot of people are sounding off on this issue. I think Victor's our first one up. Victor writes in, as long as the radiation during the test isn't at a deadly level.
And Maggie Shaw writes, I think that the level of radiation will prove to be minimal. Remember the fear-mongering over microwaves and cell phones?
Bradley Cisco says, I only fly a couple times a year, so I'm not...
Remember the fear-mongering? Microwaves and cell phones are dangerous. They do emit dangerous levels of radiation and different types of waves that cause damage. We know that, guys. What the hell are these people talking about? This is an example of brainwashing, right? You got news media, ABC, PMS, NBC, Communist News Network. They just put out bullshit and people buy it. And anything that some newscaster says, they just buy it. And this is the kind of comments that you're getting, right?
Not too worried about it. I would worry about it if I had to stand next to the scanners all day, every day.
Joel Soderberg says, I always wonder how much radiation I'm being exposed to when I fly, and I fly a lot. I think as consumers, we should know.
Okay.
All right. So just so you guys understand something, that particular type of radiation machine, I call them radiation machines, and the TSA guys hate this, right? So when I get on when I go through the line, you got to take your shoes and your belt off and all that. I say, I don't want to go through the radiation machine. And immediately I get some total a-hole TSA worker say, you know that they're safe and effective and they don't cause harm, right? And I'm like, where did you get your medical license? What law, what science, like what kind of degree in science do you have? And these people are complete brain dead retards, right? And they'll say, sir, I'm not here to argue with you. Don't talk to me like that. You're being disrespectful. This is how they talk to people. And so ultimately they'll make you stand on a little rug, and they're already pissed off because now these lazy fools have to get somebody to come over and pat you down, right? And so they have an attitude about it, and they try to treat you with contempt, and they want to make sure all of the other passengers see what you're doing, because they have the typical public school education where it's all about peer pressure, and they want to put pressure on you and make all the other passengers know that they're going to get the same treatment if they don't go through that machine. Now, let me tell you something else. Those machines have been pulled from the airports. There are no more of those what do they call them again? Backscatter scanners used to scan people. All U.S. airports have gotten rid of them. Now, they lied, in my opinion, and said it was because it violated privacy, because you could see private parts. But in my opinion, it's obviously they were testing the employees because they had long-term exposure and they were getting sick from it, right? And so that's the real reason, but they always have a pretextual reason. And we're going to get into that in a minute. Follow the money. Who's donating the money to the politicians who are voting to put these things into the airports? That's all you need to look at. Many of you may not know this, but I am a co-author of the Cruise Ship Safety Act. I helped draft it with Kendall Carver of the International Cruise Victims before he passed away, the late Kendall Carver. I went to DC several times, and I know what lobbying's about. And we would have the cruise ship companies come in right behind us after a congressman or senator said they would support the legislation we were trying to pass, and they would just cut a big check. And sure enough, that congressman or senator voted against the bill, or they voted to remove the teeth from the bill so it had no power to where you couldn't really sue the cruise ship companies for failing to put man overboard systems on the ship. So I have firsthand knowledge of what scumbags these congressmen and senators are, and how they'd sell their own mother or your children to the sharks at sea for a little bit of cash so they can get reelected. I would say 90% of the time these scumbag politicians spend in office is trying to campaign to get reelected. It's not spent doing the people's business. I just want you guys to understand that. Now, those backscatter scanners have been removed from the airports, but they're still used in luggage areas. So the TSA employees are being exposed to these radiation waves. And of course, you hear stupid comments like, well, it's the same, 2 hours on a plane or whatever, you're going to get the same exposure, right? But it's a different kind of radiation, guys. You hear X-ray techs tell you, oh, a couple hours in the sun, it's the same. No, it's not. It's a different kind of radiation. And if you've had a lot of broken bones like me from martial arts and being hurt in the Marine Corps, you've already had your lifetime exposure of radiation, right? You don't want to be going through those machines. So fine, they got rid of the backscatter scanners for people to walk through. I get it. But let's see who was selling them. Okay, let's see who was selling them, and then you'll understand why they ended up in airports to begin with. So Rapiscan Systems, one of the leading providers of security and inspection solutions for airport security, they manufacture a wide range of scanning technologies for cargo, baggage, and the people. So look at the donations, where the money goes. These politicians, these lobbyists for these companies go and pay off these politicians, and they don't give a shit if it's safe or not. Whoever's going to pay them, if they can buy off a scientist or a doctor, right? Because I know from being a lawyer, you can pay an expert witness, many say, to say whatever you want. Big Tobacco was doing it for years. They were paying off doctors to say that tobacco was actually healthy, right? We know that. So Why would it be any different for someone peddling some drug that they want to say is safe and effective, right? That kills you. It wouldn't be that hard. Now, L3 Communications, L3 Harris Technologies, they developed and sold advanced imaging technology and AIT scanners, including backscatter models. And they continue to provide high-tech security and defense solutions. So it's part of the DoD, right? The Defense Department. And then we have Smith's Detection, another major player in the security scanning space. While they're more focused on millimeter wave scanners, they have developed a range of advanced scanners for security purposes, scanning luggage, right? So backscatter scanners were phased out in the United States. They say pretextually due to privacy concerns, but I'm not buying it, because they were mass testing TSA employees for long-term radiation exposure. And it was after those series of tests, which we still don't know what the results are, right, guys? That they stopped putting them in airports and started removing them. Now, what did they end up doing? They put in millimeter wave scanners, a different type of scanner that causes a different type of damage. And of course, they always say it's safe and effective. So whenever somebody says, I'm from the government and I'm here to help, or they say I'm from the government and it's safe and effective, that's my cue, guys, to know that it probably isn't, right? That's my cue to know that somebody got paid a lot of money in Congress or the Senate to put these things in airports. That's what I believe. Now, millimeter wave scanners are the new machines that go like that. You put your arms up and it spins around. So millimeter wave scanners are commonly used in airports for body screening, and concerns have been raised about their safety. However, these scanners are generally considered safe by health organizations. And we know those health organizations. We know the health organization that says everything's safe, right? We already know what that organization is. And when they say something is safe and effective, that's when I start running. That's when I know that my life's probably in danger. Give me a bunch of ones if you feel the same way. Now, the difference is the radiation exposure. It's still radiation, okay? But it's a millimeter wave scanner, which means it supposedly doesn't go all the way in, right? It just goes in about a millimeter deep. That's the theory. Now, before I continue, I want to share something with you that a lot of you guys are missing. All of these machines have to be calibrated like a radar gun. Now, when is the last time you went through a scanner at the airport and somebody pulled out their last check to see if it was properly calibrated? Have you guys ever seen anything that showed if it was properly calibrated? How do you know that the machine you're going through has been properly calibrated? Are you willing to risk your children's or your safety? Because we know that children are much more susceptible to damage from these machines than adults. So think about how they're damaging kids. And of course, what happens when you get too much exposure from radiation? What happens? Well, you get cancer. And where do you go when you get cancer? To the same companies that operate and work out of the FDA and the CDC. The CEO of one of these large pharma companies will end up getting a job as the head cabinet level position of the CDC or the FDA. Those are facts. All right. Where do you think those kids are going to go once they start developing cancer? They're going to go and they're going to get put on chemotherapy. And those companies, those same people are going to get rich off of treating these people for cancer. Think about the revolving door of creating a crisis by selling something dangerous and telling people that it's safe and effective will create. That's what I'm trying to expose here for you guys. So basically, let's get into it right now. This type of radiation is far less energetic than ionizing radiation like X-rays. However, that allegedly, that means it doesn't have enough energy to damage DNA or tissues. And if you believe that, I have a bridge that I'm going to sell you. And I'm going to prove that many scientists disagree with that. But unfortunately, those scientists are silenced and called conspiracy theorists by these billionaires and by these people. And by the way, you can't even get a paper published unless you sing up the party line and go along with the big money people who are selling these things. So it's, in my opinion, it's a total scam, and it goes against everything our founding fathers stood for. Benjamin Rush was the only doctor who signed the Declaration of Independence, and he did not support the monopolization of medicine. I want you to understand that he did not support the monopolization of medicine. He believed that that was evil. I encourage all of you to do some research on Dr. Benjamin Rush and learn about our founding fathers, because these were brilliant men. And a lot of them were just in their 30s, and they were just speaking 7 or 8 different languages, just brilliant geniuses. Now, they're saying it can't damage DNA. And of course, they always say it's safe and effective until it's not. So they're saying that the amount of exposure is relatively low, and they're saying there's no proven health risks to humans, but there are proven health risks to animals that aren't humans. And of course, the reason why there aren't proven health risks is because they just put this stuff on the market before they even do enough testing to know, in my opinion. Now, the RF waves used in millimeter wave scanners can cause a very small amount of heating in the skin. But this is considered negligible by these so-called experts, right? The same people getting paid off by these large billion-dollar corporations to say that. That's the problem. Now, the energy levels allegedly are too low to cause any meaningful rise in body temperature or tissue damage. However, we do know that vulnerable populations, like people with pacemakers and implants, have problems with, electronic metal devices. But they're saying these scanners are generally designed to be safe for those individuals as well. So would you go through that if you had a pacemaker? I know I wouldn't. Now, privacy concerns are what they're talking about, as a justification. They're saying that one of the major concerns is related to privacy. Earlier versions, showed your body parts, your pee-pee or your wee-wee or whatever. But they're saying that this newer software prevents that. And then, of course, psychological effects, the anxiety and stress from some people going through these machines because they're worried about their health or privacy, although not a direct result of the technology, could contribute to discomfort. And then we got, do any scientists disagree with the dangers of millimeter wave scanners? Well, yes. And the reason why is, like I've been saying the whole time, because there are insufficient long-term studies on any of this technology, just like what they were doing to us a couple of years ago. Insufficient long-term studies. And the studies that they did have, they tried to bury for 75 years. And if it wasn't for people like Judicial Watch going the extra mile to do public records requests and suing the government, we would have never gotten all the information about the side effects. Unbelievable that our government tried to hide that from us. Give me a bunch of ones if you're disgusted that the people saying things are safe and effective are the very same people trying to hide the side effects that prove that it's not. Now, there are insufficient long-term studies on these. Many scientists who are not part of the cabal that just gets paid off to destroy your body say that the safety of millimeter wave scanners are lacking. They suggest that while no immediate health risk may have been identified in humans, the absence of data on prolonged repeated exposure, especially for frequent travelers and airport staff, means that we cannot definitively rule out the long-term risk. I mean, who disagrees with that with the brain, right? But when a politician's getting billions of dollars, political class is getting billions of dollars in donations from the companies selling this technology, do you think they give a rat's ass? Do you really think they care about you guys? I don't. I don't think that they care about you. And that's why I'm here exposing this, because I do care about you. I care about people. That's why I became a lawyer, to try to help people who are being taken advantage of by scumbag landlords, by scumbag politicians, and by the military-industrial complex. For example, lying about the Gulf of Tonkin, exposing my father to Agent Orange in Vietnam, him dying of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma after we were lied to about the Gulf of Tonkin, which got us into that unlawful war, which killed thousands of Americans and which is still killing my Marine brothers to this day from Agent Orange and toxic exposure to those chemicals. That's what I'm all about, guys. Give me a bunch of ones if you support what I'm all about. Now, there is Magda Havas, a researcher and advocate for, and his name is spelled Magda-Havas, a researcher and advocate for more cautious use of electromagnetic radiation. I'm getting tired, guys. Bear with me. EMR has expressed concerns about the potential health risks from chronic exposure to low-level non-ionizing radiation, like that from millimeter wave scanners, all right? Now, there are potential biological effects of non-ionizing radiation as well. Some researchers have raised the possibility that non-ionizing radiation, including millimeter waves, could have biological effects that are not yet fully understood, just like mRNA technology, right? And nanobots, right? We know that that's what's going on. We've seen the footage of nanobots being put into people, right? And we know now that nicotine kills those nanobots. So that's one way to kill them, guys, is nicotine. Remember that. I have a video about this on my channel. You can check it out. Take a look at my community tab. I have a meme, and then I include a link underneath the meme where you can learn about how nicotine can destroy these nanobots that these scumbag people are trying to inject into us to transmutate us. These transhumanists are trying to do to our bodies. Now, a 2012 study by Panagopoulos Karabarbunis and Margaritis suggested that non-ionizing radiation might affect living cells by influencing cell membranes and ion channels. And I've done research on this as well, and I agree with these guys. Though this study wasn't directly about millimeter waves, it adds to the general concerns about RF radiation. And look, in these freaking G5 towers that they're putting all over the place, you'd be very, very concerned. What do they call it? You know what I'm talking about? These towers that for the cell phone towers, that the five. Somebody tell me what that is. The five. We know that in France, a farmer won a case because it was killing his cows and causing him to be sterile and whatnot. I have an article about that on the elinelaw.com website. If you go to Google and type in elinelaw.com, just type it in the search, and then put link with semicolons, then elinelaw.com, and then put cell tower cows. You'll find my article. It's really easy to find. Or just go to my website and type in dangers of cell phones in the search bar at elinelaw.com. In fact, I'll put it in the sidebar right now for you guys to take a look at. Give me 1 second, guys. Just bear with me because I want you guys to know about this. If you go to actually the firm that I work for, because I'm just the president of the firm. It's a corporation. And then you type in cell towers. That's the link. That's a link to my website. If you do that and type in cell towers, you'll see that these cell towers are also dangerous. And government just signs off on it because they get paid millions of dollars in campaign funding to allow this crap to happen, guys. And we know that these towers can activate nanobots. And we know that the World Economic Forum wants to use nanobots to control populations because they believe you have no human rights. And these billionaires think that they have the right to control us as if we're cattle. They literally believe that. Guys like Bill Gates, they want to they want to reduce the population. The same people selling us drugs to save us are the same people who want to reduce the population. If you're capable of critical thinking, that should give you a lot of pause for thought, shouldn't it? Give me a bunch of ones if that gives you a bunch of pause for thought about your safety. Now, let's take a look here. So we know that there's caution for vulnerable groups like pregnant women, children, or people with compromised immune systems. While there's supposedly no evidence suggesting that it will harm these groups, a precautionary principle should be advocated. I'm telling you this as somebody who's a personal injury lawyer. You look at the stuff that they're putting in our foods. You look at the history of these corporations trying to say things are safe and effective. They tried to market tobacco as something that was safe and healthy. Don't believe it, guys. Be critical thinkers. Don't believe anything these people tell you, especially if it's profit-driven. Profit-driven medicine, profit-driven safety, in my opinion, is a danger to humanity and the human race. Now, there's also discrepancy in regulatory standards, right? Certain critics argue that the safety standards themselves, like the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation, the ICN-IRP, are too lenient, right? It's like they'll say, well, there's a certain amount of fluoride that's safe that you can have. The problem is that might be true, but when you're having it every day and you're exposed to it every day, they don't even look at the long-term exposure. They'll say, well, there's a certain amount of yellow food coloring that's safe or blue food dye that's safe. Right. That may be true, like maybe once every 2 years, but people are drinking these drinks and putting these things in their body every single day. So it's a scam, guys. It's a scam. Don't believe it. Do your own research. Stop believing what these people are telling you, lest you be one of these people buying the treatment for what they caused. Remember, it's all the same companies, Vanguard and BlackRock, guys. Think about that. Now, there is a huge difference between backscatter radiation airport machines and millimeter wave scanner machines. That is true. But the bottom line is, just because it's a different type of radiation, it's still radiation. And, we know for sure that the backscatter machines can lead to potential DNA damage and cancer risks over prolonged exposure. And, they say that a single radiation dose isn't harmful, but that's not the case. I mean, people are going through these machines all the time. So it's not a single dose. They're getting multiple single doses over their lifetime. If you travel a lot like me, I probably already have onset of cancer because I was one of these dumbasses who bought into this stuff, but I don't anymore. Now, the bottom line is the millimeter wave scanners do use millimeter waves, which means it doesn't go as deep. And it's similar to the waves used in cell phones and Wi-Fi and wireless technologies. So the TSA people will tell you, oh, it's just like your cell phone, and I'm thinking to myself, so why would I want to have double dose then, right? Like critical thinkers would say that might be true, but why would I want to have double the dose? And how does this TSA agent know that I don't put my cell phone in a Faraday bag because I realize that it's dangerous? See, that's how ridiculous these people are. They just are singing the party line because they're lazy and they don't want to do a pat down search. That's all it is. It's just laziness. They don't want to do it. They have attitude problems. They think because they're government employees and you can't talk back to airport employees that they're gods, right? It gives them a little bit of power. Just like these jackboot thugs who are getting on the police forces all over the country. Bunch of power-hungry a-holes who have zero regard for the safety of you and your family. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Now, so let me just give you a summary. There's the differences between the two types of machines. The former backscatter radiation machines use ionizing X-rays, and the millimeter wave scanners use non-ionizing RF millimeter waves. With the backscatter machines, we know that there's a high concern for DNA damage, and there's a lower concern for the millimeter wave scanners. The differences with the images, the backscatter machines give you a detailed image, where the millimeter scanners give you a generic outline. They both have privacy concerns. They both have potential long-term risks, although the government says that there's no proven health risks in humans, but we do know there are proven health risks in animals. And that is true, Juan Holloway. You can opt out of the machine and the facial recognition at the check-in, but what they'll do is they'll treat you like an outcast and try to make an example of you in front of the other passengers because they don't want the other passengers to know that they have the right not to go through these machines. Just give me 1 second. Just looking for something really quick. All right. So as of today, U.S. airports no longer use backscatter radiation machines for passengers. We talked about this earlier. The Transportation Security Administration has phased out the use of backscatter machines for passengers, but they still have them for bags. And so that machine that's checking your bags, that's a backscatter machine. And so you're being exposed to that as you stand there on the belt. And of course, we know that those belts are picking up radiation and they're totally radiated. So think about that, guys. The stuff that you're getting, your bags are getting radiated. The employees at TSA are getting radiated by those backscatter machines. Now, determining how much the manufacturers of these millimeter wave scanners donate to politicians is complex because the contributions are often made indirectly through lobbying efforts, political action committees, and trade associations. So there's really no way we know exactly how much they're giving for the machines themselves, but we know it's billions overall. So we just don't know, guys. And anytime there's money connected to it, there's a problem. But you can look up some of the companies. There's L3 Harris Technologies, formerly L3 Communications. There's Rapiscan Systems, owned by OSI Systems Inc. There's Smith's Detection, part of Smith's Group. and they give tons of money to your politicians. And that's why you have those machines in the airports. And of course, we know that we can never let a crisis go to waste. So when our government floods our country with illegal criminals and military-aged males, by some estimates over 30 million over the last several years of the Biden administration, Biden-Harris administration, that one of these people is going to cause another mass casualty event like they did on 9/11. You know it's going to happen. And when it happens, what's going to happen is the government is going to pass a law to take away your rights and your freedom under the guise of safety. And Benjamin Franklin said long ago, those who are willing to sacrifice liberty for safety in the end will have neither and deserve neither. Benjamin Franklin, look it up. Now, the general trends in donations are that these companies often go to members of Congress or candidates serving on committees overseeing defense, homeland security, or transportation, such as the House and Senate Homeland Security Committees or Appropriations Committees, right? And donations are often made to both political parties. As I've said, it's a uniparty system, and to ensure so-called bipartisan support. And then lobbying efforts are just another major avenue through which these companies influence policy. According to Open Secrets, companies like L3 Harris and OSI Systems spend millions annually on their lobbying efforts, which include discussions around airport security, contracts for equipment, and technology policies. So why on earth would they want secure borders? Why would any of these companies selling these technologies want Americans to be safe? Because if we were safe, they would not have a market. They would not be able to sell these technologies. Nobody would want them. Start being critical thinkers, people. Start listening to what I'm saying. Start being critical thinkers. Give me a bunch of ones if you want to become a critical thinker like me. Give me a bunch of twos if you already are. Now, the resources for tracking these companies are opensecrets.org, the Federal Election Commission, and the Lobbying Disclosure Act database. So that's where you want to look. And so we know that the health effects are going to be thermal effects, biological effects, electromagnetic hypersensitivity, EHS, cumulative exposure in frequent travelers and airport workers, and effects on sensitive groups. So we discussed that. And of course, we know that there is a lack of long-term studies. So we know that. And so the current scientific consensus is the FDA and the World Health Organizations and other health agencies say, oh, it's generally safe, right? They always say that. If it's their party, the political class is always going to say it's generally safe. The World Health Organization, in my opinion, is basically a political organization. And we know that the head of the WHO is a member of a former member of a declared Islamic terrorist organization. So why on earth would they put somebody like that in charge of our health? You guys tell me. I'd love it if somebody could explain that to me. Now, really quick, I just want to see if I have any videos. I don't have any videos today on the millimeter wave scanners, but I want to tell you guys, I appreciate all my mods. I appreciate Holdy Locks, Hair and Buns coming on. I appreciate Jeff coming on, and Austin Collins and all your twos. And Let's OTVO, thanks for showing up. And Alina, Faster Mom, thanks for showing up. Pinch Runner, Onion Head 1972, Copsar 5150. You've got my email if you need to get a hold of me, brother. And I'll give you my phone number too if you want to chat. I do need some volunteers to help me on a couple of things that I'm dealing with right now. I am getting spending a lot of time on these shows, and it is causing some trouble for me, not being able to take my son to judo and having to call my wife out. So I do ask if you can afford it to donate money to my channel through a super chat or, through purchasing memberships for other people. If you have the money, I'm not expecting you to support my channel. I understand that I'm doing this as a free service because I believe that the Lord commands me to share my expertise with others to help them. I believe that we're all called to help people and volunteer our time, but give freely and not be mandated by the government to do so. I believe that we should all be charitable without being forced. I don't believe in the concept of redistribution of wealth and stripping of people's wealth and forced to give it over. I believe it should be voluntary. So if you guys want to support my channel, super chats are appreciated. But the best way that you could support my channel right now would be to purchase the digital version of my book of my journey to becoming a practicing lawyer with no law degree or undergrad. Now, this soft cover is not the book that I'm selling online. This book is probably going to run about 40 to 50 bucks. I'm still like trying to find somebody to publish the soft cover for me at a more reasonable price. I haven't been able to do it. And then, of course, the cost of shipping is going to be outrageous. But right now, if you go to my YouTube channel, let me see if I can pull it up for you guys. If you go to my YouTube channel, let's make sure you guys can see it. You can pick up a copy of my journey on how I became a lawyer with no law degree or undergrad, and then ended up getting a law degree after I was already a practicing attorney, by going to the homepage of my YouTube channel. And I'm going to drop my YouTube link into the sidebar so you guys can click on it. It's only $19.99, and I encourage you to buy multiple copies and share them with your friends and family members, because I'm also a motivational speaker, and I teach people that what the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. And so if I could do it, somebody who slept on park benches in order to accomplish my mission, a disabled veteran who was injured in the Marine Corps during a training exercise, if I could do it, you can do it too. And in my book, I cover the different states that offer law study programs. I'm a graduate of the Law Office Study Program in California. And if you go to my YouTube channel, you can purchase my book through PayPal for $19.99. If you can afford it. I'm just asking you, I'm not just asking for a donation. It took me several years to write the book, and it just discusses my journey. So rather than be a donation, you can actually buy a copy of my book, and you can learn about what I did, because who knows, maybe some of you might want to become lawyers and advocates for the little guy and help people who are in need, people who are being abused by their landlords, people who are being abused by the government, by police, by others, and you could make a difference like I've been able to do. And again, I can't do pro bono work for everybody, but I do donate my time, particularly to Marine Corps veterans who are injured. And that's kind of what I do. So all I can say is I'm going to go ahead and close up now, guys. We're going to close down the show. I want to thank Kinetic Customs and Racing for showing up. I want to thank What's the Matter You for joining the show today. I want to thank Jeff and Chad Crum and all my regulars. Copser 5150, Onion Head 1972, Kurt Bronson, as always, thank you, brother. Are you related to Chuck Bronson, by the way? Because if you are, thumbs up, man. I love his videos. The guy's a stud, man. Congrats if you are. Good genetics. And then Jeff, thanks for coming. Holdy Locks, Hair and Buns, thanks for joining the show today. Brett Ray, thanks again. Give me a bunch of overturned civil forfeiture, OTCVs, OTCF, overturned civil forfeiture. Give me a bunch of OTCFs in the sidebar. Give me a bunch of ones if you enjoyed the show, and then give me some comments of other shows you'd like me to talk about. So I'm pretty good at anything that has to do with government abuse, government accountability operations, Fourth Amendment, Eighth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, Seventh Amendment. Throw it at me if you want me to do a show. Send me some videos if you have raw video of any illegal arrests, torture cuff type arrests, illegal stops you want to share with me. I promise that I'll do a show about it and I'll cover them in my shows. And again, anybody who gives me donations and super chats, I'll always put you at the front of the line to answer questions. Kinetic Customs and Racing. Everybody make sure to support Kinetic Customs and Racing if you want to buy stuff that has to do with racing and customs. And make sure to subscribe to his channel. I want all of you guys to think about developing parallel systems where you help one another and love one another, even if you don't agree politically. My channel is an apolitical channel. I've got Republicans as well as communist, Marxist, Democrats on my channel because we all believe in freedom and liberty. We just have a different way of looking at it maybe. But I want you all here, and I want you to enjoy the show and have a good time. And any support that you can give me to motivate me to spend more time doing research, I appreciate it. If it's not money, then maybe you can volunteer some time to help me edit some of these lives into videos and shorts. Anything you guys can do to help me get the message out to saving this country one person at a time. And What's the Matter You? Thanks for coming. all you guys, all of my regulars, I think I've all given you wrenches now. So congratulations. Give yourselves a bunch of ones for being loyal and good people and supporting my channel and getting the word out and supporting the Republic. And our guy, 936 says, TSA doesn't work. I've been hit on multiple times with absolutely nothing, right? Because you're coming from Jamaica. Sure, right? That makes sense. And then what's the matter? You, Chad Crum, Austin Call, welcome to the channel, brother. I'm super happy to have you. And Juan Holloway says, what type of radiation is truly harmless, though? That's right, Juan. None. Even too much sun exposure is harmful. And the radiation that you get from these machines is not the type of radiation you get from the sun. And that's why when I hear these TSA employees and government officials say it's no different, it makes me want to give them the finger. And I didn't get a chance to cover this, but I believe that these TSA agents are practicing medicine without a license, which is a felony in some states and a misdemeanor in others and a wobbler in others, which mean it could be charged as either one. And I believe that it's high time to start suing these TSA officials for practicing medicine without a license, because they're giving you sage medical advice in their minds because one of their bosses told them. So think about that. And I appreciate you subscribing, Alina, Faster Mom, and God bless you. Women are the creators of children, and they should be revered. And I'm so grateful to have women on my channel. And all you men, you need to take your rightful place in society as the protector and provider of your families and women to make sure that they can procreate and be fruitful and multiply. And you need to take leadership roles in your families to teach these offspring love of country, to love their neighbor, and love of the Republic. Republic. And Brett Ray, thanks again for showing up. And I think I got everybody. If I missed anybody, oh, thanks, Alina. But it's not hoorah, it's hoorah. But it's good enough. Alina says her dad was a Marine and he's guarding the pearly gates. Well, hold on one second before I go. Let me do something really quick. If I can find it. Stay with me, guys. Don't go away. I'm not done yet here. See if I can find it. I'm trying to find my cover right now. Knock on cover there, you. All right, well, it looks like we're out of luck today. We're out of luck today. I was going to get my boonie cover with my Eagle Globe and Anchor to give your father a salute, but we'll just go ahead, since I am authorized to salute the flag without a cover on because I am a veteran, and since I have an American flag right there. Semper Fi to your father. God bless him. I'm so grateful that we had people like your father to rear up wonderful women like you, Alina, and Semper Fi to your father and to you. And let me see who else. Yeah, OTCF. Thanks, Christopher. And Goldilocks Hair and Buns, right on. OTCF, overturned civil forfeiture laws. Juan Holloway, once again, if you're a sub, I appreciate you subbing. And Onion Head and all you guys. I just love all you guys. I love my mods. And I really appreciate April Rain. Thanks for showing up again, April. Woohoo, April, right on. Thanks for supporting the channel. And I'm going to try to come back on tomorrow night. And you're right, Let's OTVO. We need to overturn civil asset forfeiture laws. What a disgrace, right? What a disgrace. And look at how they target black people. It's no wonder so many black people hate people that look like me, because it's generally those TSA workers, they look like me. But I got to tell you guys, we need to treat everybody equally, and we need to stop judging people by their color and start judging them by the content of their character, which is why we need to vehemently protest against these bullshit things that they're forcing on our school children, like intersectionalism and critical race theory, which is all it's just racism is all it is. It teaches hatred. It teaches young children to look at people based on skin color rather than their character, which is exactly the opposite of what Martin Luther King Jr. taught. And we need to start thinking like that, guys. We need to start loving one another and stop judging people based on skin color. It's absolutely disgusting to me. Give me a bunch of ones to a colorblind society. And then Brick Jonesy, thank you so much for showing up. Repeal Civil Asset Forfeiture, RCAF. And guys, make sure to go and subscribe to Brick Jonesy's channel, please. Make sure to subscribe to Brick Jonesy's channel. He's a true loyal follower of my channel, of Team MPE. God bless him. And Shannon Johnson, thanks for showing up. And gosh, I just want to thank everybody. Hey, what's up, Delete Laws? And I want to thank Chili DeCastro from Delete Laws, if he's still here. I appreciate you showing up, Chili. And you're such a good guy. And as you guys know, I had an opportunity to visit Chili when he was unlawfully incarcerated. And I lost a lot of sleep worrying about him. I really thought something bad was going to happen to him. And I'm just really grateful to all you guys for giving me an opportunity to share my love and to share my knowledge with all of you, because I care about people. And I really, really want you guys to be successful in life. And I want you to always pursue liberty and happiness. And I'm going to be there to support you in any way that I can. By the way, guys, Chili's going to be live in a couple of minutes. Make sure to check out Delete Laws in 35 minutes. If any of the people on my channel don't know who Chili is, he is a cop watcher and an advocate. He supports the Fourth Amendment big time, and he supports government accountability operations, which is what my channel is dedicated to. And I helped him run his channel when he was locked up so it wouldn't die, because he was unlawfully deprived of his property and his happiness. And together with Team MPE and guys like Brick Jonesy and Let's OTVO, and with our prayers, with our donations, he was able to get his case reversed on appeal. He was able to win his case, and now he has his freedom. And that's what Team MPE is all about. It's about holding the government accountable and making sure that we have champions for justice like Chili DeCastro that are out there fighting for all of you. And we keep them out of jail. We protect them. We pray for them. We support them. And that's what we do. So I expect all of you guys to support Team DLZ and the Delete Laws channel and Brick Jonesy. And yes, Onion Head, please take a look at the Delete Laws channel if you get a chance. Make sure to subscribe and like his stuff. And everybody, double tap your screen, by the way. That's the only way you can like me when I'm in vertical mode. So make sure to get me a bunch of double taps before I close the show down so I get my likes up. Because generally, like right now, I've got 80,000 views and I've got, I probably have hardly any likes, because when you're in vertical mode, people don't like you as much because they don't have that button they can click. So make sure to double tap the screen, and also make sure to click that little square where you save to favorites. That's one of the best ways to tell YouTube that you like my stuff, and they'll put me higher up in the results as a result of that. So always save my stuff to your favorites, share it with your friends and family member, and all you truckers and people who support liberty and freedom. My shows are great because they usually go for an hour or two, and you can listen to them when you're driving, because we don't have Rush Limbaugh anymore. Remember him? We don't have AM radio anymore, really, that has good shows like Rush, right? So now you guys can listen to me instead, and you can just listen to my videos, and you can help me that way. And you're absolutely welcome, Alina, and Semper Fidelis again to your father. I wish I had my cover available because I wanted you to see my Eagle Globe and Anchor, but you know us Marines, we stick together. Unlike any of the other branches, you join the Army, you join the Navy, you join the Air Force, you join the Coast Guard, but you become a United States Marine, and you never change. You will always be loyal to your brothers. Whenever I meet a Marine and I see them with their EGA on their lapel or their honorable discharge pin, I give them my business card, and I always let them know they have a couch to sleep on if they're ever down in their luck. And trust me, on more than one occasion, they've called in that marker. And I too have called in that marker as well. And so I understand how important it is being a Marine and being the offspring of a Marine. And I'm really grateful to have you on my show, supporting me. And make sure to support Delete Laws again. He's going to be on in about 25 minutes. I love you too, Chili. You're a great guy, man. And I really want you guys to support Chili. Chili's really been on a tough road, guys. He supports people out of his own pocket, trying to help people who have been wrongfully imprisoned. And when he was locked up, he was unable to make any money. And when he got out, he made good on his promises to support those people at his own expense. And I want you guys to support him with donations and super chats, and make sure that his channel is a success. And And then let me see if I got anything else to say. We got Cindy Prim. I don't know who you are, but I appreciate you coming to the channel. And civil asset forfeiture has now passed in revenue total crime. Can you believe that? And by the way, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. Chile knows more than 99.99% of lawyers when it comes to this stuff. And about Brady and all these other amazing laws and about holding law enforcement accountable. So check out his channel and make sure to like and subscribe to Chili. Brick is awesome, Chad Crum. He's a great guy. All you guys are great, and I'm super happy to have all you. And look, I've been up since 0300 this morning, 0330, so I'm pretty wiped out. So I can't give out any more compliments, but make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save. Make sure to double tap that screen. Give me some likes, guys. Even once the show's over, double tap that screen. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. And with that being said, make sure to also subscribe to BZ Watchdog's channel. Good guy, part of Team DLZ and part of Team MPE. Also a former U.S. Marine like me, so we're naturally brothers to the end. And Semper Fi, do or die.